Okay, this is my last effort to try it on my page. And if not, we'll do it on hers if possible. Yes! Yes! Yes!
There
Thank
we
you!
go. You did it.
I'm so sorry about that.
Hey, it worked. If at first you don't succeed, try again.
3 times a charm. Third time's a charm.
3 is a good number.
Okay.
So, how are you?
I'm good. I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Where are you in the world?
Oh, let me try
There it goes.
it. What you asked me?
Where are you in the world right now?
I'm on the East Coast,
Okay.
trying to live my best life.
Yeah.
It's okay. So my husband's trying to get me to move. It's okay. What about you? Where are you?
I'm in LA.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
How y'all holding up over there?
Pretty good. Pretty good, I guess. I mean, I can't speak for everyone. I went to a nice peaceful protest the other day, waiting to see if there's gonna be more this weekend that I can go to. But people are very excited to hear you speak, to be on here with me.
Yeah. So how we doing this? What we doing?
I want you to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement in whatever way you can, how time has been for you, what's inspiring you right now, what what you think, because this is just an audience of people who are willing to learn, and I think that's why I'm doing these lives, so people can, especially white people and people who are not black, can learn and take away from this movement that's happening.
Yeah. You know what I teach. So let me introduce myself. I'm Monique Melton, and I am a anti-racism educator. I specifically create classes, courses, learning experiences to support people in their journey of anti-racism, which is to identify and eliminate racism through systems, powers, beliefs, so that we can redistribute resources and repair harm that's been done and share power equitably.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is a process that is multifaceted. I use a framework that I created to teach people how to approach the work from the inside out. And I also am a mother, I'm a wife. I have 2 beautiful Black children. And I also am married to my high school sweetheart. We met in weightlifting class. And so, I've always been Black. You know, my Blackness is not news to me. It's not something that I'm just becoming aware of. And for my entire life, I've had to experience the numerous forms of oppression just because of the skin I'm in
Sure.
and my family, my friends. And so this this season that we're in right now, this moment in time where there is this increased awareness and attention on issues and matters that are directly negatively impacting Black lives. I'm mixed with all sorts of emotions
Yeah.
because we've been saying this. This is not news to us. None of this is surprising to us. We don't want it. We want it to end, but we're not shocked
Yeah.
by the injustices that we endure And so to see that it has taken yet another and multiple Black deaths
Yeah.
and it had to be on video, and it also had to be a Black man to get people to want to notice what we've been saying all along. Today is Breonna Taylor's birthday, and she is a Black woman who was murdered by the police in her bed while she was at home in the comfort and should have been safety of her own home. She was murdered, and that murderer is still out here in these streets.
Yep.
There's no accountability. We can't have justice for her, because justice would mean she would still be breathing and celebrating her birthday today with maybe some cupcakes and brownies. But instead, we know her name.
Yeah.
And most of us wouldn't, had she not have been murdered. I don't want it. I don't want any more Black lives to become famous because of our death.
Right. Of course.
To become known because of our death.
Right.
And so for me, what I'm feeling is a mixture of frustration, a mixture of sadness, fear, and a little glimmer of hope.
Yeah, I was
because we've been here before.
Yeah.
We've been here with the white collective, where you've made us promises and have said that you would uphold this country's values. But there is no history of that ever being materialized in a real and sustainable way.
Yeah.
And that goes all the way back to 1619. Black people fought in the Revolutionary War, and the very war that Americans like to celebrate as the independence of this country, freedom, yet Black people were still enslaved. That's not our holiday.
Yeah.
Instead, we celebrate Juneteenth,
Mm-hmm.
which came nearly 100 years later.
Sure.
We fought in a war. My ancestors fought in a war after already have spent generations serving in this country in the most brutal way, dehumanizing way, being exploited in ways that no human being should ever endure. And yet we fought for this country, hoping that it would hold its promise to us. While the Declaration of Independence was being drafted, that line about all men are created equal was not for us, because in that room was an enslaved person.
Yeah.
When it was being drafted. And so America has never held up its promise to us. And we can say we have numerous times in history, over and over and over again, to see where the white collective has made these lofty promises and declarations, and this is what we're going to be, this is the country that we're going to be, but has not held that for us.
Right.
Those promises have remained unkept, and they've been broken. And so that's why I have a glimmer of hope. I am cautiously optimistic. I've heard the promises.
Yeah.
I've seen them over and over again. And so if you look at history and you study history, and you see how history is not just something, isolated events in the past, but instead it lives with us, like James Baldwin says, we can understand history as a tool. We can learn from history instead of it being a weapon.
Right.
The bloodiest war in this country, Civil War, the bloodiest war, was to preserve the institution of legalized chattel slavery. White people went to war, died to protect bondage. So we have a long, deep painful, gruesome, devastating history in this country with our experience with our white counterparts that tells us be cautious.
Sure. Yeah.
We've seen this before. And to not accept anything just because that's what they want to give you. You know, we have been fighting since we came here in shackles, shipped on ships like cargo. I don't know if you've ever seen a visual of how enslaved persons were placed in ships
Yeah.
and the strategy that went to do that. See, people don't understand the amount of strategy and deliberate and intentional planning and execution to maintain this system of racial hierarchy that puts white people at the top and black people at the bottom, and to maintain this system of subjugation. People refuse to acknowledge how in right after the Civil War, during the Reconstruction era, when black folks, 13th Amendment, we were supposed to be free. But instead, what happened, we had a, a government and a people that was so persistent in maintaining a society where black people were subservient, subjugated, and oppressed, that they did any and everything possible to create slavery by another name. And we know that as mass incarceration. And it lives and moves today. And so people don't understand history. And so when they see us now in 2020 out here fighting and protesting, it's like, well, what more do y'all want? We want humanity. We deserve that. We should not have to earn that, but we will fight for it. And so when I hear people complain about, well, give us a chance, we're trying, or, complain that we're asking for too much, we're doing too much, we're not, coddling people and holding their hands enough. When I hear people tell me that, I want to know how many people are holding the hands of the black mothers who have lost their children to police brutality, to this horrible, inhumane prison industrial system. How many are soothing the families of the black mothers who are dying disproportionately in our healthcare system when they are giving life to the children that grew in their body, but they are dying disproportionately than our white counterparts? How many people are soothing and comforting these people? How many people are with us when we are grieving over the loss of our brothers and sisters being slain in the streets just for walking down in your neighborhood? How many people are grieving and coming and centering our pain? But you want us to comfort and soothe you about our pain. It is the most unjust thing. It adds to it. And so so when you ask me how do I feel all of it. I feel all of it. And I have two black children who I love. They grew inside of me. I felt them before I even met them. And so to see them grow up, it should feel good. You should feel excited, like, and hopeful of what life could be for them and what might they do with a career or their talents. As you see them grow, it's supposed to be something that's full of glee, but instead it is mixed with terror, because we know that as our children, especially our black boys, as they get older, they lose that presumption of, oh, that's cute, which we never really fully get that presumption of innocence, which is why we have the adultification of black girls and boys, which leads into that school to prison pipeline and the criminalization of our black boys and girls in school. But as they get older, that target on their back gets larger and it's more glaring. And so when I see my son getting taller, I'm feeling more terrified. Every time my husband leaves the house just to go to the grocery store, I'm I'm scared that he might not come back.
Wow.
Every time. Just yesterday, he went to the store, and I had to calm myself. Be careful. You know, we go through such measures just to survive whiteness, but yet we're told we're asking for too much. We just want to live. We're not asking for more than what is owed to us. We're asking. We're not. We're asking for what we deserve, and that is our humanity, and to live fully and freely in that. Is that too much to want to have? Absolutely not. And so my ancestors, their trauma runs through me, but their resilience does too, and their strength. And so if my ancestors can be out here protesting and being attacked with dogs and sprayed with water hose and beaten, have their houses bombed and crosses burned on their porches, if they can be lynched and murdered just for trying to exercise their right to vote, the very least I can do is continue on their fight that they started, continue on this legacy of Black liberation. And I can do that with all that I have and with all that I am, so that my children can reap the benefits of what I did in my day, just like I'm reaping the benefits of what my ancestors did in their day. But we're not going to stop until we have humanity. And we are far from that. So that's how I feel. I feel all the things. I feel all the things. And people are like, they get upset. Well, why aren't you accepting that apology? Because it's not an apology. You're centering yourself. You're making yourself out to be the victim. Apologizing is actually very simple. Why aren't you, believing that these brands, they really mean it this time? Because we know they don't. We know y'all better than y'all know yourself. We write whole books about y'all. History, documentaries, research, books, and I mean, you name it. There's whole academic study, critical race theory. We study because we have to survive it. So I'm all of those things. And with today being Breonna Taylor's birthday, this week has been hellacious.
Yeah.
It really has. I have wept. I have slept maybe 4 hours a night. I've lost my appetite. And then I still have to look at my children and explain to them what's going on. We don't get the freedom and luxury to decide when and if we're going to talk to our kids about race, because racism doesn't wait for our kids to get older. Our children experience racism in the womb because of the way in which the Black woman's body weathers racism. Our children don't get to wait. So that's how I'm doing. And for any of you listening, I want to give a real quick call to action. There's a website. It's called Fight for Breonna Taylor. It's Fight for Breonna, or no, justiceforbreonna.org. And fightforbreonna.org. Website that shares very specific, tangible, actionable steps that you can take to ensure that accountability is served. And so all y'all right here, I don't know how many people on here, and go watch this later. People want to say, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? We can talk about that in a minute. But one very practical thing you can do today is go on that website and take one of those actions.
Yep.
So that's how I'm doing.
Okay.
Well, what else you want to know? That's how I'm doing.
I mean, so it's so amazing to hear you speak. It's horrifying to think about. Everything that you're going through is everything you just said. It's just, this is why I wanted to have you speak. This is why I want to have people speak, just because seeing the Instagram things floating around, it's not as impactful as hearing someone like you who has Black children and has been, you know, like you said, you've been Black your whole life. Like this is
all my life.
not news to you, but it's news to a lot of people,
Hmm.
which is horrifying. And I think right now the best we can, or the least I can do, is help amplify your voice and anyone's voice who needs to be heard. But so, like, thank you for coming on here, first of
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, because that's your responsibility as a white person who has privilege in this country. All of you have a responsibility in dismantling this system. And the way in which you operate in that responsibility is going to look different depending on the type of opportunities and the rooms that you're in and the people you're around, the way that you engage in that responsibility, but it's still your responsibility. And so you getting on here amplifying voices, that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And people shouldn't give you cookies and praise and congratulate you for that. Like this, like that's just like if my son go wash his hands after he uses the bathroom, and I'm like, yay, you're supposed to do that. Don't nobody want to get sick from your poop germs. You in there wiping and ain't washing,
Yep.
And so like this is just basic humanity.
Yep. Totally.
Ain't nothing extraordinary about this. And so, another thing I want to say is because people really struggle with like, where do I start? What okay, I hear you, Monique. Oh my goodness. Okay, it's my responsibility. I'm ready to get in here. Where do I start? What do I do? And I'm gonna tell you a couple things. Okay, I'm gonna tell you a couple things. One of the things is you start with yourself. One of the first things people often do is they get involved in this work without having an understanding what the work is.
Mm.
And so it's kind of like coming into someone's house, trying to prepare them a meal, and you don't know their kitchen. You don't know what they have. You fumbling all over the place. You dropping stuff. You using stuff in the fridge that is expired that they knew was expired, but you didn't because you ain't asked. Like you're doing things and you're making a mess. You're
Yeah.
causing more harm. Had you come in the home and ask the person who actually the home belongs to, what do I need to do to support you, and then actually do it, then we could actually get this thing done without making such a big mess. It ain't
Right.
gonna be perfect. I mean, world-class chefs, they burn the toast too. It's not gonna be perfect. That's not the thing. But we can do a whole lot more than having to clean up the mess that you're making on top of the mess that already is here.
Right.
And so where you start is you start with yourself and you follow and pay attention and follow the lead of Black women. We are the most marginalized people in the entire world. So when you want to solve a problem, you go to the one who is experiencing the problem the worst. Even amongst Black women, you center the voices of Black women, especially trans Black women, disabled Black women, Black women who are experiencing poverty, women who have these compounding oppressions and marginalized experiences because of capitalism, patriarchy. I mean, all of the structures, but that are rooted in white supremacy.
Mm.
We start there. And so you start by listening. You start with yourself and by listening to what we have to say, and not listening from a place of a intellectual endeavor, coming to be critical and to tear it all apart, but to really try to hear what we're saying and to respect that we are the experts of our pain. And we, therefore, are the experts of what our healing will and should look like. And so listening to us is a part of that unlearning process, because white supremacy tells you that we don't need to listen to us. Our voice, that's what internalized white supremacy, that tells you that. And we are all impacted by white supremacy. It's hurting y'all, it's hurting us, it's in the air we breathe. But because people don't understand what white supremacy is, they think that you are trying to attack them and accuse them of things of having ill moral character, and the schools is not helping because they're teaching a very inaccurate understanding of what white supremacy and racism is. It's not just these intentional, deliberate, malicious acts of violence. It is that, but that's not the full story. It's actually far more pervasive than that. But instead, it is prejudiced beliefs that are reinforced by systems of power. Ijoma Ulu says it perfectly in her book, So You Want to Talk About Race. If you have a negative belief about a black man, that prejudice, that black man is dangerous and that he is violent, you have that belief, and then you act upon that belief, and then you have whole systems and structures that support you and acting upon that belief, there we are, a oppressive society based on prejudiced beliefs against people of color that are reinforced by institutions and systems of power and have been for over 400 years. And so when we can really get a full grasp of what we're actually talking about and really talk what the definition of it is and then we can say, okay, what is the problem? What do we have here? What are we dealing with? And it's like, all right, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. And then it's understanding, okay, well, how do I play a role in that? How do I actually benefit from that? And that's the part that gets everybody, woo, I can't take it. You done said too much, Monique. They can't stand it. They come at me and I tell them, don't blame me. Blame your internalized white supremacy. Mm. Don't blame me for holding up a mirror.
Yeah, of course.
And so it starts with that. And then, it starts with getting really curious about your beliefs.
Yeah.
And understanding that your beliefs are shaped by your environment. And so if you spent your whole life in primarily all white communities, mm-hmm. which most of America has because of legalized chattel slavery, and then redlining and segregation and separate but equal, and how we're even more segregated than we were when it was legalized. Okay, all this is deliberate. Okay, most of you have no clue what our experiences are like. And what you're reading in the book is not the full story. They're told from the perspective of the white person, the oppressor. They're whitewashed, is erased. And so you just kind of going out in life thinking that, hey, I'm not saying the N-word, so I'm not doing anything wrong. But instead, you're refusing to see the systems that are operating in plain sight, that are creating negative social outcomes for us and creating benefits and privileges for you. And people hate the term privilege, especially those who are white, who experience poverty, because they feel, well, I don't have money. Privilege is not about money. That's not the full story either. It is understanding things that it's not always what you can do, it's the things that you don't have to do. Mm. You know that you don't have to talk to your kids about race. You don't have to look at your 9-year-old and watch them look terrified when you explain to them that when you encounter the police, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, because they're not always a safe person for you. You don't have to have that conversation with your child ever. And so, and you also don't ever have to wonder, am I being pulled over because I'm white? Or did I not get that job because of my last name or my first name? You never have to change your hair because it goes against company policy. You never have to do certain things that constantly dehumanize us. And so it's really just getting informed about the multitude of ways in which white supremacy operates in this country and in our society, and how it operates to assert dominance, power, and control in every aspect of our society. Getting honest about that. And when you do, because I work with all kinds of people, it is incredibly disorienting. You're mad that people have lied to you. You're like, how did I believe this all my life? You're confused, you're frustrated, you're embarrassed. But you know what? I tell you, we know more about y'all than y'all know about yourselves. We got a whole theory that explains this. White Identity Development Theory by Janet Helms talks about the stages of white identity development and how you go through those stages and what they look like. So we know what y'all dealing with. We already know. It's not news, you know? And so people can start with being informed, reading books, um, listening to podcasts, going to classes, taking this as a lifelong practice.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like a lot of, where do I start? Where do I start? Where do I start? And people are jumping right in there. There's no microwave approach to anti-racism. We do need urgency, but if you go into it and don't know what you're doing, it only is going to make things worse. And so it's just like trying to, you know, when you do if you're going to prepare for a marathon, which I don't run. I don't like running. It never feels good to me. But for people who run, good for you. But when you wake up one day and like, you know what, I'm gonna run a marathon. You don't get out there the first day and run 23 miles or however long the marathon is. People who run marathons, go ahead. You don't just do it in the first day. You condition, you train, and all of it is not quite fun. It's a commitment, it's a daily practice, it's choosing certain things over what you prefer to do. And that's why my program is called Unity Over Comfort. You know, it's a daily practice. Anti-racism is a daily practice of choosing what is right over what is convenient. You choosing what is right over what is comfortable. It's a daily practice, and you're not going to get it perfect, and no one is expecting you to. You know, and so I think that people also need to understand what it is that we are fighting for. And it's our humanity. It's to have the full and complete social, political, economical integration into society. The very thing that Abraham Lincoln said that he was never for. He directly said that. And the very thing that we know that the white collective is also not ready for, because the way in which there has been repeated, consistent efforts and attempts to maintain a system of slavery by another name.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I think people just really need to also understand you start with yourself, but that it can't just stick within you. It needs to extend outside into your relationships, into your local community, into the systems you engage in. And the larger systems, it's all of it, but you go with you everywhere you go. So it has to start with you and remain in you and extend out. Constantly interrogating yourself, because it's everywhere we go. It's in everything we do. So you're going to have to constantly be very aware of yourself. And that takes practice. But what's the alternative? Just keep going on the way that we've been going on in just another 400 years? More hashtags, more death, more suffering, more pain. It's time to get to work and stick with it and not give up when you get tired, or when you got to take the kids to soccer practice, or when it's going to cost you money. Here, listen, anti-racism work, it is very much about redistributing economical resources.
Mm.
Black people have been systemically disenfranchised very deliberately, which is why white folks in this country own about 80% of the wealth. Something has to be off in a system like in a country like that when 80% of the wealth is maintained by a particular group. Something's not right. Something's not right. And it's time we call it what it is. You know, but when you really call it what it is, that means that you now have to become aware of the ways in which you have benefited
Right.
from what it is. And that's the part that's like, I don't want to do that. Can I just send a donation? Can I
Right.
just be nice? You know, can I just go help feed some hungry kids in the neighborhood and take pictures of them and put them on the internet to look how good I am? Can I just do that? Because I don't want to do this other part. You know, it's like when people say I want to meal prep, and the whole idea like meal prep, and we're gonna have all these elaborate meals, and we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and then when it gets time to like go grocery shopping and cut it all up and get it all ready, it's like, you know what, we ordering pizza. It's too much work. The idea of unity, the idea of all people having equal protection under the law, the idea of all people being actually treated as equal, it sounds good. But what it's going to take to get there, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And, and that's the part that we won't stop, but we're not going to stop. We never have. We never have. We won't stop until we have our humanity fully.
That's
I need a mic.
you need well, this is your microphone.
I
Wow.
actually have one, but I don't want to drop it because I need it later.
You are incredible, Monique. Thank you for speaking. I think you just opened up a lot of people's eyes.
I hope so.
I know it.
I hope so. Because a lot of what you have learned growing up, it's not the full story. A lot
Oh,
of what you heard in school and the books that you were read. I mean, here's something. Let me give a couple practical things, and then we can finish. Let me give a couple practical things for people to begin. Like, how many books in your house are by Black authors? How many movies have you watched in the last few weeks that were created by Black people and centered Black stories? How many clothing brands do you support that are ran and operated and owned by Black folks? How many restaurants do you support that are ran and owned by Black folks? Not white folks who like to do a spin on Southern cuisine,
sure.
the very thing that Black folks created from scraps that white people wanted to give us, and then you turn around and appropriate it and call it your own. So how many people on your Instagram do you follow that are Black women? Just do a quick inventory of the amount of whiteness in your world and how much you consume of it, and how that is shaping how you move and how you see the world. Of course you don't get it. Of course you don't understand why we're angry. We're angry because we're oppressed. You would be too. Did we not see the white folks out there protesting for a haircut? Here we are protesting to live and to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so just do a quick little inventory. Go look at your bank account. How much money have you spent in Black businesses and put into Black communities? Chances are you're going to uncover some things that, again, going to make you uncomfortable. But don't get mad at me. That's a place for you to get honest with yourself and say, okay, what am I going to do to change this? And begin to take that next step. Start with a class, start with a program, do something, and then also support initiatives and moves in your community. It's not one or the other, it's all of it. It's all of it. You're taking it all in, girl. Are you taking it? You're
I
taking it in.
it's just you're making a lot of it's you're spot on.
Well, I hope you take notes
I'm
and you save this,
oh, I will. I will.
because this worked for you too.
Absolutely.
You right in here with them. All y'all, everyone who holds white privilege, you all benefit from the same system, whether you want to or not.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming on here and speaking. Really, I that was very enlightening.
I appreciate you inviting me, and I just again want to remind people to go to fightforbrianna.org,
Yep.
share her story, take an action. If you do nothing else today, go and do something that will specifically be aligned with accountability,
Mm.
so that her voice, her pain, her legacy is not erased, it's not silenced. Say her name. She did not deserve that. We do not deserve this. And we're going to make sure that we keep fighting until things change and we get our full and total humanity as we deserve.
As you deserve. Thank you so much, Monique.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Stay safe.
You too. Take care.